Hi, Standers. This is Sheila Hollinger from Marriage Revealed Ministries, and today we are going to do another question and answer. And the question is why? And that is such a broad question, but I believe the answer is actually going to tackle a lot of various questions that we get asked often. This question is in regards to, it's usually the very reason that a spouse gives to you as to why they don't want to be married anymore, why they left, why they want to be separated. And this question that comes out of that is because their reason that they give, okay, creates such a confusion in you. You don't understand it. Even if you do understand it, the punishment of ending a marriage doesn't fit the reason that they gave. Let's say, they accused you of ignoring them or being, controlling, or whatever their reason was that they chose to hold on to as the reason that this isn't going to work, that they don't want to be married to you anymore. Whatever that reason is, it doesn't make sense why they would destroy a marriage, why they would walk away, why they would hurt the children, why they would, want to lose everything that the two of you have built up. And so even if that reason that they give you, even if you do acknowledge it and you say, oh, yeah, I do see that now. I do see how I was doing this. But why don't you want to work on it now that I'm willing to change, or I have changed? Why don't you want to work on what was broken? So, you accuse me of this is broken, I fix it, and now you're telling me it's too late. So none of this makes sense, and it creates a huge why question in our hearts and our minds, and we can actually get really tormented by this why, especially if it was an absolute lie. If your spouse could not find a good enough reason to leave, they will create something, or they will take something small and minute and insignificant, and they will blow it up into magnormous, is that even a word, magnormous? I don't know. But they will blow it up into enormous and gigantic proportions, and then they will use it to really just share and spread that around. Some of you understand what I mean, because it's character assassination, and they are making you out to be, a monster. They're just making you out to be totally a bad guy, accusing you of things. They might even go and get a restraining order on you to prove to the world, to them, to everybody, yeah, this is what was going on. And people will say, oh, if that's the truth, you should really put a restraining order on them. So they get captured in this lie. Your spouse has to have a lie, or they have to have a truth blown out of proportion to give them permission to do what they really want to do, and to do it without guilt, to do it without feeling bad. So part of the hard heart is that when you make a decision to do something that's wrong, you have to create a safe place for this lie, for this decision that you've made. You have to create a safe place for this decision to develop, to grow, to be protected, to be nurtured. Otherwise, once you make your decision, I'm going to put me first, and this is really what it is. I'm going to put me first, and I'm going to pursue this relationship with this new person that makes me feel good, that treats me like I'm the only person on earth. I'm going to pursue this, other lifestyle that's all fun, all happiness, no responsibility. This other person has promised me that they're going to take care of me, that everything's going to be great. They're going to love me. They're going to give me everything I've ever wanted. And, and so now that they've been presented with this opportunity, right? That's how they see it. It's an opportunity. Well, now they have to look at it and say, now how do I go after this opportunity and not be made out to be the bad guy? Because now that I'm going to pursue this new opportunity over here, right? Now I have to destroy my spouse, destroy my family, maybe destroy a business we created, all these dreams. I have to walk away from maybe something that I was building that I spent a lot of time and money into. Some of these spouses are, invested in just a lot of different things. You look around at your life and what you've built together. Some of these things are years and years and years and years of building projects, I had one couple, he had just bought property that he'd been wanting next to his home for years, and it just came available, and he bought it, and he scheduled to have the property cleared. He's scheduled to have the foundation put on a new shop, to have it fenced. All this time for something he'd wanted forever finally happened. And 2 weeks before they came out and cleared it, but 2 weeks before the building, which he'd already paid for and everything, happened, he left the marriage. So you understand what I'm saying, that it takes, these things go through their mind, but that want and desire to go pursue this other lifestyle, this other me first, my happiness first, it becomes this just ginormic, boy, I'm coming up with some words today, aren't I? It just becomes these incredible opportunities that your spouse has to figure out. This is too good to pass up. Every void in my life, every hole that's been there, that's been sucking me dry, all the discontent I've been feeling deep down that nobody knows about, my spouse doesn't know about it, all this in me, all of a sudden now, is there that I didn't know about, but all of a sudden now I'm being given an opportunity to have all of that wiped away. That I've done a teaching on the adulterous spirit and how it comes and does something called the flattering tongue. And what that flattering tongue is a smoothing over of rough places. That's what flattery and that spirit does. So you want to make sure if this, is something that you need, to understand more, go watch that video. So what happens is we have all these rough places. Our spouses have all these rough places in their life where they may not have realized it was bothering them, that it was just forming this huge void, this huge cavity in their life of, discontent. Maybe they were figuring out how to ease it with doing things, hobbies, but whatever it was, they were able to appease it just enough that you might not have seen that they were hurting. Okay, I know that a lot of standers are in that same exact place where they were doing the same thing. They were living their life, filling up those voids, filling up those discontents, filling up those missing places, not getting their needs met. and they were filling it up with different things as well. But they never were tempted to walk away and find someone else. That opportunity, it just wasn't for them. But it usually, it usually does just come at one person. That's all the enemy needs to do, is present one person with that opportunity, and that breaks up a marriage. I have seen where both spouses both walked away and left, and pursued that very thing, like almost like taking turns. One is standing, then one is, walking away, and then it reverses, and sometimes that happens back and forth, back and forth. But anyway, so you've got this huge void in this person's life, and they're just going around buying things, building things. Maybe they are not even doing that. They're just depressed. They're unhappy. They're just searching there. It's almost like, we've called it a midlife crisis, but it is a crisis. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The void is getting worse. And things that they've always been doing their whole life doesn't seem to be working anymore. And sometimes as a stander, we have no clue. We just don't understand. We don't see it. We had no clue this was going on. The changes our spouses might have been getting into were so subtle, just so subtle and so small that we didn't see it. Our spouse might have decided they were going to take up a new hobby, or whatever, start working out, just some type of a small change that you can look back on now and say, wow, I do see there was a tiny change or another change, or these small changes building up and leading to all of a sudden the spouse is telling you, I'm not happy. I haven't been in a very long time. And, they're not going to usually outright say it, but the truth is this other opportunity came along with the flattering tongue. Okay, it could be a person, but it could be something else, and said, I promise you, I'm going to smooth out all of these rough places in your life that have been sucking you dry, have been making you unhappy, have been taking away from you, been stealing your happiness. I have the power to do that. And that is the lie that our spouses will believe, and they will fall for, and they will be lured into this. But in order to do that, like I was sharing, they have to create a safe place for this lie to prosper. Most spouses cannot and won't look at everyone and look at you and look at the world and say, I'm about to destroy my family and I have no good reason. They just won't say that, because the guilt would eat them alive. That would be them going for this lie and being totally 100% honest and truthful. And that would make, what would happen is that lie would not, that whole walking away would not prosper. It would fizzle out. There's no way that someone would do that and be able to get away with it. So in order for it to prosper, for that lie to really work, you have to create, they have to create a place of deception. They have to create a place of prosperity for it to grow. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, this is why I have to leave, because you were, and then insert the reason right there, whatever they come up with. Okay. And like I shared in the beginning, some of it is truth. A small part is truth. Some of it is just outright lies, made up completely. Some of it is 100 million different little reasons that they are putting out there. And then they're going to go around and they are going to get as many to agree to that lie as they can. And that's why you have families that divide and split, because you have gullible people who are going to believe them and take their side. You have, if you have a large following of friends, sometimes I've seen where all of a sudden you are now isolated and alone, and everyone is on their side. And no one believes you, maybe they're like, oh yeah, I did see that you were controlling. But, like I said before, whatever was the truth gets really exasperated and blown out of proportion. And you've got people who are following their feelings. They're in their feelings, and very few times your spouse is going to go to a Holy Spirit filled person who is going to discern exactly the truth. And if they do go to that person and that person tells them, nope, you are being deceived, you are following after a selfish, they're going to walk away and they're going to cut that person right out of their life. And you will see that anyone that tries to speak truth, anyone that tries to destroy that little safe place where that lie is growing and building. Remember, I said they have to protect this lie, which means they're not going to go to anyone that's going to speak truth to them. They're going to cut everything out that has any potential of damaging what they're trying to build. So I want you to think of this lie. And the lie is the reason that they are using why they get to leave. That's their lie. That's their deception, okay? I want you to look at it as this little, petri dish. And in that petri dish, they are protecting it, and they're feeding it, and they're surrounding it with people that are going to agree with them. And together they are just going to make this thing grow and prosper. And they have to do this, okay? They have to do this for themselves in order to get away with what they want. And if that means they have to lie about you, they have to slander you, they have to gossip, they have to... Now, I'm not saying this is right. Please hear me. I'm not saying this is right. What I'm saying is this is what they do. You guys are asking, why is my wife telling everybody that I was this? Why is my husband going around saying I was that, I was this, I was that? Why are they doing that? I never did any of that, or I never did it to the extent that they're saying. So these are the questions that are being asked. So I'm giving you the answer as to why. I'm not saying it's right. It is absolutely wrong. And they know it's wrong. Okay? Part of what the hard heart does is it has to overcome the guilt, the shame, the conviction, the condemnation that it feels. It has to protect itself. That's why the heart goes hard. The hard heart means, when you look up the biblical definition, it means void of oil, a departure of oil. So you have a heart, okay, that makes the decision, I'm going to believe this lie. I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to pursue happiness. Or it says, I have been literally miserable. I have been, gasping for air. I have been starving. Our last issue of Revealed, we did on living waters. And there was an article in there that I wrote that I studied out about the starving soul, and how it's really a good article. I hope you guys get the magazine and read it, because I really studied out on what, the starving soul versus the full soul. And there was a scripture in there about a person who comes across a honeycomb and recognizes it for what it is. And it says that a starving person won't care that it's bitter. This is a scripture in there, and I can't remember exactly. It's in Proverbs, but I can't remember where it's at. But it says a starving person will not care that it's bitter, and they'll eat it. But a full person will understand what this honeycomb is. And this was Bathsheba speaking about this honeycomb and saying that a person that's soul is full, who is connected to God, who gets, their life's nutrition from the Lord, okay? that person, when they come across this bitter honeycomb, they're going to recognize it for what it is, and they are going to trample on it. And when you look at when you look at honeycomb and you're like, wait, they're going to trample on honey? Who does that? Well, it's because of this particular honeycomb represents the flattering tongue of the adulterous woman. Because everywhere in the Bible that talks about the adulterous woman, it usually says that she uses honeycomb to tempt. And so this was such a good article, you guys. I really hope you are able to read this, because it was like so eye-opening. So the adulterous woman uses honeycomb as her lure, right? A person that is walking in life, not connected and getting their souls fed and watered by God, is a starving soul. In Job, it says that soul is hunger bitten. Again, I did another article in the magazine on being hunger bitten, what that means. So this is your spouse, not connected to God. And sadly, Standers, some of that was you as well. You were hunger bitten, you were starving, and we're talking about your spirits and your souls. Starving, walking without nourishment, not connected, not getting that living water from God. The very living water that Jesus said at the well with the woman. If you knew who I was, you would be asking me for living water. That's what he says. You would be asking me, and you would never be thirsty again. All throughout the word, the word talks about living water and how you would never, ever be thirsty again. So we have spouses and standers who are walking through life malnourished, thirsting, right? And they're growing weary and they're growing tired. And then all of a sudden they come across the honeycomb of the strange woman. They come across a broken cistern. The word talks about that too. A broken cistern. God says, my people are building these cisterns that are broken and not even holding water. And they're building these. That's what the word says. So God is showing and telling us over and over how we're going out there and he's right there, but we're finding all these substitutes. Okay, we're building broken cisterns. We're coming across honeycomb. And instead of seeing what it is, a lure and a temptation, we're eating it. We're eating it even though it's bitter and it's not good for us. We're eating it. And we're being lured away. We're being lured away. And this is what's happened to the spouse. All of this is happening because God is hoping upon hope that they will understand that when they eat this bitter honey that's not meant for them, when they drink out of broken cisterns, that's not living water. Okay? He's hoping that they will understand you're not going to get fulfilled. You're not going to get fed. You're not going to get nourished. When the only one that can do that is God. And you're going after all of this fake, counterfeit, whatever you want to call it, counterfeit, fake, it's not the real thing. It's not the real thing. And I'm going to use my fish again. You guys, you're all going to have to bear with me because, yes, I'm in the season of my life right now where it's my fish. So I was in the hobby a long time ago, and I'm learning, through the wonderful, power of YouTube and Google. I have so much more access now to information that I never had before. Okay, I had fish magazines, or I would talk to fish experts, that came through. But I never had access to, YouTube and Google to learn. And so I'm finding out all of these great fish foods that I thought were out there years ago were just out there to get your money. They were fake. They were full of all these additives and, wheat and all these things, preservatives, things that fish don't eat. And so it looked great. The packaging looked great. Everything looked great. But we were feeding our fish garbage. Very rarely did any of this food actually contain what was needed to sustain. So my point in this is that it comes in a pretty package. These people that come and present themselves to your spouse with promises, it looks great. It looks appealing. It looks like it's all there. And it lies. The packaging lies and tells you, we're the best. We're number one. The fish love us. But when you look at the ingredients and you look what's it really made up of, the number one ingredient is wheat or some preservative or something, some filler. And it's like, as I'm learning, I'm like, okay, so what does the first ingredient have to be? Okay, for a person who is starving, the first ingredient has to be God. There's no replacement. The number one thing in a person who is starving is God. They need God. They need God. And they're not turning that, they're not looking at the back. They're not looking at the ingredient of this person that is presenting themselves, that front of the package. Everything looks great. You read the slogan, right? You read all of that. And it says, we're number one. We are promising you all of these lies, right? No one turns it over and looks at what are you made of? What is your number one ingredient? And so I know this is kind of a crazy analogy, but this is what I'm learning. I'm going through my fish room right now. And I'm looking at all of these fish foods I've accumulated over the years. And yeah, I keep expired things. And I'm throwing things out left and right. But it's a learning thing for me because I'm flipping these things over now. Something I never did. You guys, I never looked at the back and learned to look at ingredients. Ever. And I'm learning now, Sheila, don't even buy anything until you look at the back. And you look and see. Because that... Thank God for whoever forces people to put ingredients on the back in the fine print, because I got to get out a magnifying glass, right, you guys? You got to get out a magnifying glass because they want you to read the lie first, and they make that as big and bold as possible so you fall for it, and that's the first thing you see, the photo on the front, and whatever they're allowed to lie and say. But the truth, oh my gosh, the truth has to be on there somewhere, but it doesn't have to be on the front, and it can be in the smallest print, but as long as it's on there. And I'm telling you, this is like a person. This is so like a person. That truth is somewhere on that person that your spouse is falling for. But you just want to go for the pretty picture. You want to go for the lie. You want to go for the promise that's on the front, and you don't flip it over. You don't even bother. It's a lot of work for me to get my little magnifying glass out or use my phone to take a photo of the ingredients because I'm kind of, my eyes aren't great and I can't read these things. And I think they know that. I think they know there's no way we're going to make this print so small. There's no way they can read it. So they, whoever makes these packages knows that we can dupe them by putting the truth as small as possible. And I'm telling you, this is like these people that our spouses get involved with. The truth is on there somewhere, and they know that they just keep that lie super big and enticing, seducing, whatever. It's going to deceive your spouse, and your spouse wants the lie that was on the package, that lie. They want that. They want it so much that they won't even want to look at the truth. Let's say you have a spouse who is feeling unloved, ignored, unappreciated, disrespected, right? And that becomes everything to them. They want to feel respected in their marriage. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel loved. They are tired of arguing all the time. They are tired of being criticized all the time. They're tired of whatever is going on in their life. They're just tired of it. And they come across this pretty package that says in bold letters, respect. We're promising you when you come and you open us up and you buy us, you are going to get respect. Okay, now you flip that over, and what does the fine print say? You're going to lose your soul. You're going to have to harden your heart, turn away from God, lose your family, lose the respect of a lot of people, but you're going to feel the respect of that one deceptive lie. And then, the fine print is going to say a lot more. You're going to hate yourself. What are the ingredients? Okay, let's just go there. What are the ingredients of this package that's so small that you cannot read it? Shame, guilt, condemnation, self-hatred, self-loathing. Oh, this is getting good. I need someone to design me something about adultery on the package. Let's call it something. I don't know, but the fine ingredients that come in this, right? This is good because this is all the fine print. This is all the fine print. And what would that package say on the outside? Contentment, feeling good about yourself, happiness. There we go. That's the name of the package, happiness. Because that's what pretty much every spouse says. I just want to be happy. Yeah, and the fine print, you guys, they don't read it. They don't know that they are in trouble. And in the very bottom of this, it says, if you keep absorbing this, if you keep eating this, if you keep going with this product, you will eventually die. You will be perishing. There's no spiritual food whatsoever in this. There's no God in this. None of those ingredients, you guys. Oh, and there's the lie right there on the front of the cover. God approved, God directed, God led, God whatever. They're allowed to lie on the cover. They're allowed to deceive. They're allowed to mislead. As long as they somewhere on the back put the truth on it. And so it's really sad, but that's what they have to do to get to help them get away with growing this lie in this little petri dish. They got to keep feeding it garbage. They got to keep feeding it bull. And so what is our job as a stander? You got to recognize they're going to lie. They're going to gather their little crowd of people that they have gotten to believe the lie. And you have to watch them all now, gather around this petri dish of deception. And it hurts. And God knows it hurts. And you are absolutely able to go to God and say, God, I understand what they're doing. It doesn't make it any easier to be lied about, to be slandered. Some of these standers, it's heartbreaking what they actually go through. Their reputation is really damaged, especially when there's police reports filed and things. I mean, these are not just little things. These are serious allegations. And that's one of the reasons I'm always telling standers to be careful about labeling your spouse something that is damaging. Oh my goodness, there was someone that sent something to me about a stander who was literally calling her husband a child abuser or something, saying that, he was grooming the child for something. And it was like, that wasn't truth at all. There was no abuse in that situation, but she was very bitter, very hostile, very, it was a nightmare. When I was reading this, I was like, what is she doing? All because she does not want her, husband picking up their child and taking the child over for the weekend. She was slandering and smearing her husband, with lies. She didn't want the child over to be in that situation, and none of it was truth. So standers do it as well, because they're so hurt, they're so broken. And we have to be careful not to go down that route. The video I did yesterday was, for that reason, to help us not become so bitter, so broken that we are assassinating our spouse's character. And, we're really big on speaking, don't spouse expose, cover your spouse, watch what you say, no slandering, because God wants us to have pure hearts, and we don't want to fall into that place of, speaking lies. So let's just recap really quick, and I'll wrap it up. We're getting 36 minutes into this. So your spouse is going to be tempted to fill up the void in their life that they have been feeling because they are missing a connection with God. That's what it boils down to. It's always been about that. Wherever God does not own your soul, your heart, your mind, your spirit, wherever there's a void, you open the door for the enemy to come in. And since God says he wants your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole soul, your whole being, right? He has a reason for that. Because if he's not part of that whole part of you, then you're vulnerable to the enemy. Now you take a spouse who really didn't have God as any part of them, and they really became vulnerable. And that's where you've got the starving place, and they're going to get fed by that flattering tongue of the enemy. That's the honeycomb that comes in. And a person that, again, that's not starving, because they are fed by God, they're going to see that honeycomb and they're going to say, I know exactly what this is. This is deception, and I'm going to trample it because I know this is not for me. This is a temptation to be lured away from God. So a person that is connected with God will see that and walk away from it, get away. This is danger. But a person with a starving soul who's not connected with God, they can't. They're hunger bitten, and they're going to grab that honeycomb. They're going to eat it up, and that is the snare of the enemy. Again, that's talked about throughout Proverbs. When the strange woman's spirit is talked about, that's her weapon, honey. She lures with honey. And so now you've got a spouse who's made that decision. I'm going to go after this lie. I want that respect. I want that love. I want that happiness. I want it. And I'm not going to read the ingredients, and I'm not going to read the fine print of what it's going to cost me. But now that I've chosen to do this, now I've got to make out a lie, and I've got to turn everybody to agree with me. I've got to believe it myself. And together, your spouse with that other person and the help of the enemy is going to create this wonderful petri dish of deception and nurture it and feed it and make it grow. And the hard heart is going to come void of the Holy Spirit. And it's going to, the hard heart's going to protect them from feeling guilt, shame, and condemnation to some level that they can keep going. Okay, there is a lot of shame, there is a lot of guilt, and there is a lot of condemnation. How do they survive it? How do they survive it? Because the hard heart If their heart was not hard, they'd succumb. There's no way you could live with that amount of guilt, shame, condemnation, conviction, oppression, unless you have a hard heart and you can walk in that place. And that's how they do it. But the hard heart is temporary. Praise God for that. So, as a stander, you're watching this petri dish, and it's like a witch's cauldron. You know, people are standing over it, throwing all these curses, all this stuff, and they're just gathered around, you know, feeding this thing. And you're sitting there and you're like, you know, you can get really hurt, really bitter, really angry if you don't go to God and really gain an understanding and a knowledge and say, God, I get it. I see what they're doing and I know why they're doing this. And it hurts, but I cannot let what's being done, what they're doing, turn me into what they say. You know, I can't let it turn me into an angry, hurt, hostile person, a vengeful person. I can't do that. God, you've got to help me. You've got to protect me. You've got to guide me so I don't lose myself in this. And standards, you've got to be on guard. You've got to watch yourself so you do not sin and you do not lose yourself. You know, that's what God was saying in the Cain and Abel situation. Just keep doing good, because sin is crouching at your door. And if you don't watch yourself, you're going to get lost in this. And that would be really a horrible, horrible thing, that your spouse, you know, got this can of food, this happiness food, and you started eating it too, and started letting this, you know, the ingredients of this stupid petri dish spill over, and now it's infecting you. You've got to guard yourself. Put those details away. When they're speaking things, they're slandering you, don't repeat them. Don't go around telling everybody, look what my spouse did. You know, they filed a restraining order on me. They said I was this. They said I was that. They said I was disrespectful. They said I was control. Don't feed that anymore. You need to cover that with the blood of Jesus, and you need to put an end to that. Those are lies. Those are deceptions. And yes, they hurt. And I think part of the reason why we keep repeating it over and over and over to everybody that'll listen, I think part of the reason we do that is because we are so hurt. We are so just like, I can't believe that's what they are saying. That's what they're doing. This is so not like them. It's such a lie. And we are so hurt by it. And that's why we keep saying it over and over and over. And that's got to stop. If you're going to speak it, then you need to be like, I cover those lies and I cast them down and I speak the truth. And you need to start speaking the truth. And you need to start speaking forgiveness and grace and mercy and covering your spouse and asking God to zip the lips of these lies. Expose them and uncover the hard heart so they can start really feeling and seeing what they're doing. And they will. I'm telling you, there's a lot of spouses that they get it. After a while, they start to realize and they start to see what they've done. That hard heart starts to, you know, melt. And then you've got spouses who will come back and say, yeah, I'm really sorry. What I did, what I said wasn't right. You didn't deserve it. You've got a lot of spouses that turn and start saying that. And what are they going to be met with? They're going to be met with, from you, they're going to be either met with bitterness, or they're going to be met with, yeah, I know. I forgave you a long time ago. I saw what was being done and I understood what was going on. So you have a choice. You have a choice. And how are you going to respond when that spouse does finally come around and admit to you exactly what you've been shown here. And to tell you, yeah, I just was saying those things because I was really lost. And they're not going to be able to explain exactly why they said what they said or did what they did. That takes years for them to uncover. They're not going to come and say, you know what, I just was selfish and I was so unhappy and I didn't know why I was unhappy. And guess what? It was because I didn't have God in my life. And I chose to fall for the deception, what was on the cover, instead of flipping it over and realizing that none of this was what I wanted, what I needed. I didn't know. I'm telling you guys also, spouses don't know. They're ignoring the fact that they're missing God in their life. And they're going for the counterfeits. I think deep down we all know that we're choosing the counterfeits. We all know that we are not pursuing God like we should. We're all taught, we're all taught that good and evil, God and Satan, we're all taught that. We're all taught it's a choice. And we all make that choice. And then you got the lukewarm people who think, I've chosen God, but I'm going to ignore the fact that I'm not pursuing God, that I have no relationship with Him, but I'm going to call myself a Christian. And those are the people that are in deep trouble. At least atheists are real when they say they've made a choice. You know, they're not playing around. They've said it. I don't believe in God and I'm done. And you're not, I'm not going to sit on the fence. But even then, even those people, I'm telling you, they're still looking because they get in the forums and they want to knock everything about God they can, but we're not going to go there. But anyway, I hope this answered some of the whys. And I pray that you don't let their lie turn you bitter, hostile. You've got to understand why they're doing what they're doing, why God's allowing them to do it, so they can really find out that this petri dish is a counterfeit. It's fake. They're still starving. They're still perishing. They're still hunger bitten. None of it is giving them what they want. And they're going to get them to another place in their life where they either put that petri dish away and seek out the truth and find God, or they're going to go buy another counterfeit. And that's why you have spouses that will go from person to person. They're like, okay, well, maybe this wasn't the right person. Maybe I'll go find a different counterfeit. And God, please, God, get through to them. It's a waste of time. You just need to keep praying that they open their eyes to all these counterfeits. But see, God has a way. He knows that these people our spouses are doing this because there's a lot of reasons in their hearts that they're not ready yet to turn to Him. So while they are going from person to person, or while they are stuck with this one counterfeit person, God is healing. I know it sounds crazy, but He's literally working on and healing those places in our spouses' lives that is preventing them from going to Him. And yeah, we sure would rather them be home and doing it with us, but, sometimes that's not how it works. Sometimes they get healed while they're in the wilderness, while they're walking that path of deception. And so I know this was kind of a deep message, and I pray it blessed you. And if it did, please give this video a like. It helps it get spread all over the YouTube and reach the people that it needs to reach. So God bless you guys. Keep the questions coming.